Hey guys, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, weekly Q&A show I started up a few months ago. It's been going good so far, and I have a lot of interesting questions. I looked ahead, located a few questions that I wanted to answer for sure, and I'm going to be getting to those. Also, I just keep refreshing the lodestone, hoping to see anything about 2.5. Nothing yet. January 20th ain't looking so good, ladies and gentlemen. But with that out of the way, let's get started on the Q&A itself, shall we? Alright, so the first question I have is actually a two-parter. So the first one is concerning the hunts. I mainly stay in the highlands where people seem to suicide dive off cliffs a lot to try and spawn the S rank in that region. I like to ask you, since you're pretty knowledgeable of these sort of things, is it true what people say about the suicide dive off the high cliff at 1 HP to spawn the S rank? That's Corthus, I believe. Yeah, highlands. Listen, I wasn't anybody who did those super, those super controlled tests. I don't even know how controlled those tests really were for the spawning of the S ranks, but hey, they want to do it, they want to believe it. I'm not 100% convinced on all of them, and to this day, there are still people who debate certain spawn conditions. One of them being Nandi, I think that's upper or outer. I can't even remember anymore. Where you're supposed to walk along the path. That's Camp Bronze Lake, yeah, where you have to walk along the path with the minions, and some people think you just got to resummon the minion over and over again. So they're still debating on whether or not any of that stuff is true, or if it's just all time-based, but I don't know. The A ranks are supposed to have spawn conditions as well, and I'm calling BS on that, so whatever. S rank spawn, I show up, get 50 seals, get 50 soldiery. That's all that matters. And the second question this person has is, do you think we'll see a rare fate drop with the form of Bahamut in the upcoming expansion, with maybe like special drop similar? You need, if you haven't already and you're not planning on doing the final coil, you should probably find out what's going on inside the final coil of Bahamut, and that would answer your question for you. So my answer is no, but I don't want to spoil anything in the process. Just next question. Hey, Herr Glucklich. I think that's German. I actually think I know what the second part means. I think that means Mrhappy in German. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that means Mrhappy in German. So what do you reckon this new rule we're getting in Frontlines might be? As someone who's growing tired of farming for his 110 PvP armor, I'm really looking forward to something fresh. The only thing that comes to mind is Capture the Flag, because Capture the Flag is one of my favorite PvP modes, or rules in this case. But it could even be, who knows, maybe they'll reduce the size of the map, just put us all in the middle and say, go nuts, kill each other. Who knows? I would really like it to be Capture the Flag, if not for the, just for the fact that I really like Capture the Flag as a game mode, that it would be pretty funny if we got Capture the Flag before Destiny did. Zing! Next question. Thanks for your question, though. Next question. Hey, Mrhappy, I have a question about the new jobs. At what point in the game will they have unique gear sets aside from artifact gear? Like this question. Also, will Square Enix continue the trend of all tanks having one set, all healers having one set, and the separate sets for each of the DPS, except for the casters? I think we might see more unique gear sets. Okay, first of all, we're going to have artifact gear 2. That's what we're calling it in Heavensward. They teased that a long time ago, and we've yet to see those sets. So I'm expecting that'll be in Heavensward if it's not in 2.5, which I'm not expecting. But not only that, for loot in Alexander, they said they were experimenting with the idea of doing tokens, which is, hey, you got this token, you're going to go hand it in for a piece of gear. So that way, even if you get screwed on loot every week, at least you're still making progress towards your raid tier loot. And if they do that, that opens up the window for them to do more job-specific armor. And you know what? Considering Dark Knight's theme versus Paladin's theme, I would really like those two to have separate sets. I know Paladin and Warrior can kind of make it make sense, but I don't know. To me, it's just like a Warrior of, holiness and light and a Warrior of pure darkness should not wear the same armor, or at least not the same colored armor, at least a different color scheme or something like that. I think there's a chance we'll see that, but with 13 jobs in the game, there's only so much they can really stretch that out. Because if they have too many different gear sets, then it's going to be a pain getting them. And if they have too few, then it's going to be annoying with everybody having to share them. So we'll see where they strike a balance with this token system. Next question. Hello, Mrhappy. Great videos. Really love them. Thank you. Anyway, question for week 22. When do you live stream? I'd really like to watch them. Makes me feel like I'm missing so much. I try to live stream like 3-4 times a week, but it's not a consistent schedule. It's pretty much, what do I have to do today? Do I have anything to do with the family? Do I have a lot of recording to do? Do I have a lot of rendering to do? Is there some big event or some esports game or big event? Like last week I had AGDQ that I was watching a lot of the time. It depends on a lot of things. But I try to stream 3 to 4 times a week, usually later in the Eastern Standard Time evenings, like between 5 and 9. But sometimes I start streaming before that. So if you just go to my Twitch and follow me, you'll get an email when I go live. And also if you just happen to be watching any of my videos when I'm live, there's supposed to be a little Twitch pop-up that says, hey, he's live. You can go check it out. And quite a few people have stopped by from that. So thank you everyone who has stopped by the stream. Stream's been going really good lately. So hopefully you can come by and have some fun. Alright, here's one of the questions that I really wanted to answer because I've seen this happen before. Question for you, Happy, for your next Q&A. A friend and I were talking, and he has a feeling that we're going to do a time warp, and you're going to be able to replay the 1.0 storyline with the 2.0 mechanics. What are your thoughts? I want to say the 1.0 story was great, but to replay it with the 2.0 mechanics, just, it wasn't enough going on. You got to remember, the 1.0 story, alright, did a bunch of stuff, you know, companion, NPC, all that stuff. But the amount of fights, it was basically, what, Ifrit hard mode, Mogomog. Well, it was Ifrit, Mogomog, Garuda, and, like, a couple of other fights. It wasn't a lot of content, is what I'm trying to say. They weren't updating it very often. So, yes, they could expand upon it and make it better, and there's a few other MMOs that have done that. There's one very recently, I think you made of World of Warcraft, they did something like that. And, oh, Final Fantasy XI did it with Wings of the Goddess. I think that it would not be 1.0 storyline, but go back into a different era, like a 5th Astral era, or the 4th Astral era, or Umbral era, whichever it is. But I don't think we'll go back and play 1.0 storyline. Nah. I don't think so. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy. I'd like to start by saying I love watching the Q&A videos. Thank you for coming by and supporting the channel. My friend and I were talking about Grand Company ranks, and I told him about how there are ranks that haven't been added or aren't obtainable yet. I was wondering if you know anything about these. In the patch 2.4 patch notes, they actually leaked the next rank, or that at least there was a picture there that showed a higher Grand Company seal rank above the 50,000 and had capped at 55. So that might be talking for plans for 2.5 or 3.0, and it might have just come out a little bit sooner than expected. So yeah, we're probably going to see more ranks. I'm expecting 3 new Grand Company ranks in Heavensward, just speculation at this point, with similar to level gear that we had when the game was brand new. Because Grand Company gear was okay to have when the game first came out, because you needed the gear in order to do the pretty difficult hard mode dungeons back then when everyone was super under geared for them. And I'm actually hoping that that happens again, but I'm hoping the Grand Companies, when they go up in these ranks, that they don't fall off like this, that they're not just vessels for the relic quest and a few vanity items and some other things. I really want to see the Grand Company gears fleshed out a little bit more. Something involving the raids, maybe take the tokens back to your Grand Company and have it involve the ranks. I don't know. I would just like to see the Grand Companies be more involved in general, but not in front lines, because that makes the queues longer with all the separation. So, other than that, perfectly okay. Alright, I would like to say 1 question, but it's a bombardment of questions. Oh, actually, well, 3. I should have just counted before I said anything. Hello from Labrador, Canada. Hello. Question for week 22. Did you ever get eternally bonded? Yes, I did. How many Mr. Happy t-shirts did you sell? 109. Excited to get mine. Should be getting it soon, actually. Very, very soon. And how many more stages to the Zodiac quest do you feel they will implement? 1 more. 2.51 is, in my opinion, going to be the last step, and it's going to take it to 135 item level. We don't know if it's going to continue on in the Heavensward, and until I hear official confirmation, my theory is that it will end in 2.51. You will have the best in slot weapon until Heavensward comes out, and then you may be able to continue it from there. We don't know that yet, but we may be. It may have some influence. So, I'm going to complete mine. It's full crit determination. I wasted the money on it already anyway. So, looking forward to it. Next question. Enjoy the Q&A. You guys are saying you'll enjoy the Q&A a lot today. I like it. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. You've mentioned the relatively simple stat system that 14 uses compared to other MMOs. Do you think that Square Enix will expand the stats in the future or continue to add jobs that only use the current attributes or properties that they have? Personally, I would like to see them expand. Add things like charisma, luck, agility, evasion. I'd also like to see the elemental attributes start to make some of an impact in future content in the games. Thoughts? They said that they very purposely made A Realm Reborn very simple at its base, so that it's easy to expand upon without having to change too many things. I think they're learning that's not exactly true, even though they say that's what they did it for. It's not as simple as that. It's not as simple as, hey, we put all these things here, and now we can just put stuff on top of it and not worry about it so much. Every time they put another gear set on top of it, it gets a little bit harder for them to balance everything. So another stat altogether, that would be kind of rough. But yeah, I would like to see them expand on it. I'd like to see, the big thing I want to see is set bonuses with unique implications with your abilities, and that's something that doesn't really need to be super complex. You know, it could change the color of your attacks. It could just make it do like a little more damage, a specific attack. It could change an attack into doing one thing and weakening it in one aspect and strengthening it in another, especially on PvP gear. I would love to see those kind of effects on gear. And I don't think I'm alone in that one, but I want them to be able to do it carefully and controlled, and I know they don't have as big of a development team as some other MMOs have, but I'm confident that they can do it. It's just a matter of when will they do it. So yes, I would like to see them expand the stats. Next question. Hey, Mr. Xehanort, thank you for reminding me that YouTube won't let me change my name. How many minigames do you think that there will be in the Gold Saucer when it first becomes available? 5. I think we're going to have 3 like mini games, like not just like, you know, crane game and the power machine. 4 actually, so 6 total. 4 little mini games. You're gonna have chocobo racing, which includes chocobo breeding. I'd imagine you can bet on the races, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know 100% about that. And then of course you have the triple triad, which I'm sure is gonna have like tournaments and stuff in there. They said there's gonna be like dancing competitions and stuff too. We know there's gonna be a fate that spawns in the Gold Saucer, so there could be more. I mean, it seems huge. It seems like they got plenty of room for stuff. So I'm gonna go with 6. 6 is my final answer. Locking it in. Hopefully I'm not wrong. We'll see. Alright, so the next question, I kind of need a little bit more information to truly answer correctly, but so I posted this on your discussion board. I guess you mean my YouTube channel's discussion section, which I don't even get emails about updating, so it's pretty rare for me to see those things. I'm glad you're asking it here though. But I was unable to find anyone else that could provide me with an answer, so I'll ask again. I was given a copy of the original Final Fantasy XIV for Christmas. Am I able to make use of it, or should I just shelf it? If you use the registration code for the original Final Fantasy XIV 1.0, it will work to give you a copy of A Realm Reborn. So you can indeed use it in the same way you would use A Realm Reborn registration code. You just have to go to the Square Enix account, go to the Mog Station, register it the same way you normally would. Just keep in mind, if you're already playing the game, then you know, it won't be able to make use of it unless you're playing on like the console and you want to add the PC version. So yeah, I don't really have all the information to answer that correctly, but the short answer is yes, you can use the registration code in there to start playing Final Fantasy XIV. All right, this question's a little long. So here's a question of mine from way back in week 14. So I know you're not a huge fan of characters from past games coming back, but I love that the Crystal Tower was brought into 14. As far as final dungeons from past installments, that's way too many quotations, go, it seems like a really cool choice to bring into 14, not something so ingrained into the specifics of the world of Final Fantasy III that it doesn't make sense to exist elsewhere. I was thinking of other Final Fantasy dungeons in the series, the North Crater from Final Fantasy VII, Ultimecia's Castle from Final Fantasy VIII, Inside Sin from Final Fantasy X, etc. I think the only other one that could be done really well in Final Fantasy XIV would be something similar to Memoria from Final Fantasy IX. Thoughts? If you had to choose a past final dungeon to reappear in 14, what would you choose and what would make the most sense? Well, actually, the only one I would have picked, and not that this isn't possible anymore, would have been the Red Moon from Final Fantasy IV, because that is indeed the inspiration. Originally, Dalamud was supposed to be an endgame zone in 1.0. We were supposed to go up to Dalamud, and it was supposed to be reminiscent of Final Fantasy IV's Red Moon scenario. And that's indicative of the fact that Bahamut comes out of Dalamud as well. So that would have been really the only one. I would have liked to have gone into the original Dalamud, but technically the Binding Coil of Bahamut, we kind of did go into Dalamud, so it still kind of worked out in the way that I wanted it to, but not really in the exact way that I wanted it to. Yeah, if I had to go with any, Or, you know what? Final Fantasy XII's final dungeon, the judges from 12 and the generals from Final Fantasy 14 very similar. So I would actually be down for going into one of their airships, not the Agrius, but I mean like one that's in the air and go to the top and take it out and take out the leader and all that stuff. That would be pretty cool for me. So I'm going to go with that. Final Fantasy XII's final dungeon and Final Fantasy IV's final dungeon are the two that I would like to see the most. But I want to see their originality, what they can do to identify 14 as a unique world and not one that just takes from other worlds. Alright, next question that I'm going to answer. Question from week 22, for week 22, sorry, it's a little long. My girlfriend has a problem, Happy. She's an item level 120 Black Mage with a Lilith Rod, and she has a tendency to steal hate from the main tanks on everything. She's not yet on Final Coil, but it's a huge problem on turn 9, even ripping Nail off the main tank. That happens right at the beginning of the fight, especially if you have a ninja in the party for 4k damage fire 3s after Trick Attack. But here's the issue. Black Mages simply cannot reduce their damage output except when she has to move, and being an expert player, she knows just how much to move, and it's back to nuking. She has Quelling Strikes, but it doesn't seem to help. I feel Black Mages have an issue where it's all or none when it comes to damage output. Every other job gets slow DPS by using actions slower, hitting a TP and MP floor. Let's be honest, she can't start spamming Blizzard because it hurts her overall DPS more than beneficial quick fix. Any advice? So Quelling Strikes, if Quelling Strikes isn't helping at the beginning of the fight, then whoever's tanking, that's more of an issue on the tank's part. Because with Quelling Strikes at the beginning of a turn 9, assuming that the tank isn't severely undergeared compared to her, that shouldn't be an issue. There really shouldn't be an issue at all. I mean, as a 135 ninja, you know, I come very close to pulling aggro at the start of the fights, and a lot of the times I actually do pull aggro at the start of the fights if my tank isn't as adequately geared as myself. So what I do is I slow the use of my abilities if it's going to be an actual issue. As a Black Mage, it's pretty simple. You would just start off with doing your fire combo. You have 10 seconds before Astral Fire wears off. You just slow down the first 2, maybe 3 casts. 3 seems like a little much. And just take your time going between each of them. You have a whole 10 seconds before you have to worry about Astral Fire. But this sounds more like the tanks that you're doing stuff with need to work on their enmity generation more than she needs to work on her enmity reduction, you know? So with Quelling Strikes, she should be fine. If not, take an extra second or 2 to cast the next fire, and then continue on like normal. If it's still an issue, I would address the tank. That would be the most logical thing to do. Next question. Hi, Mr. Happy. My second main job is Warrior, and I seem to have trouble using Storm's Eye whenever there is a ninja using Dancing Edge, especially when I am the other tank. My question is, do I need to use Storm's Eye to combo with Maim for extra damage, even if there's a ninja? Okay, so the general rule of thumb is, if you have a ninja and a warrior in the group, and the warrior's an off tank, because it's easier for them to keep Storm's Eye up as an off tank, then the warrior should be the one keeping Storm's Eye up 100% of the time. And the ninja should discontinue the use of Dancing Edge and strictly, go with Aeolian Edge in its place. So, you should be the one using Storm's Eye, and the ninja should not be using Dancing Edge. That would be the best way. Sometimes a ninja will start with Dancing Edge if he doesn't know if the tank is going to start with Storm's Eye or Storm's Path if he's off tanking. That's a fair thing to do, but from that point on, the warrior should be responsible for Storm's Eye. For your main combo, you'll probably just end up using Storm's Path if this wasn't the case. But no, yeah, Storm's Eye, Storm's Path are going to be both of your main combos. You're probably going to use both of them with a ninja in your party. So, if you have ninjas overriding it, you know what? If you have a ninja overriding it, just be like, no, alright, that's you. That's you. Don't complain. Don't complain. I tried, man. And you should be good to go. This next one's a little bit long, and I've got maybe one more after this one. We'll see how long I end up deciding to go. Mr. Happy, question for episode 22. Do you think that dark tanking being evasion parry is an odd direction for a heavy armor job? Evasion doesn't seem like the right choice. Counter would make more sense. Also, evasion isn't listed in our stats. It's hidden. So unless they add it to armor 3.0, I assume it's just magic skills that would give them like a ghost evasion plus bonus. Okay, well, you have to remember the translation for evasion from Japanese to English could very well literally just mean the act of evading AoE attacks, which would be totally normal. Parry being, and even parrying is considered a form of evasion. It's a partial evasion, just like blocking is a partial evasion. And it depends on, it's weird because with translation going from Japanese to English, which is, you know, how this even came to be, it's may not literally mean they are evasion tanks in the sense like a ninja was in Final Fantasy XI, where they were focused on completely avoiding damage. And partial evasions that are actually evasions with a small percentage that, you know, do less damage, those are possible as well. But even then, counter on a perma end drain on a weapon while in tank stance would make more sense. So if we do get some skills with magic that gives decent blind debuff to the mob, and even if it's a boss, we can make a decent off tank. I doubt it's because 14 hates these debuffs, unlike 11. Also, so sorry for the long rant after the question. Yeah, I don't think evasion is exactly the term that we think it is through the translation disparity. I think that maybe they'll have access to some abilities that might help them avoid damage altogether, you know, like summoning something from the darkness to take a hit for them, or something along those lines. But we don't know. The bottom line is we don't know. Parry tank totally makes sense because they're wielding a giant two-handed weapon. They gotta do something, and warrior is technically also a parry tank. I'm curious overall what the direction of the Dark Knight tank is and how it varies from paladin to warrior. So we got a few months still to find out. I'm hoping we get more information on this soon. Alright, and the last question I'm going to answer in this week's Q&A is, hi Mr. Happy, I've started over a couple of times, but now I'm playing catch-up, so I've been skipping whole cutscenes. Do you think it's a bad idea or good one? If you don't care to watch the cutscenes, man, don't watch them. Like, I'm somebody who recommends that everybody take the time to watch the cutscenes and enjoy the story, but if you're skipping them and that's the way you want to play, then that's the way you want to play. I'm not going to tell you what's right or what's wrong. If you really want to see them after you skip them, go back and watch them in your in-room. I mean, you have that option. They're not gone forever. Some of them you won't be able to find because they're not legitimate cutscenes. They're kind of just little animated interactions. But still, I recommend watching them, but if you don't want to, don't. And that's going to be the last question I answer for this week. Going to get this up and rendered as soon as possible. And keep looking at the 2.5. Please, something for 2.5. No, there's still nothing. Let's check the Japanese lodestone. Let's check it. No, there's still nothing. Okay, well, that's going to be fun. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this week's video. Be sure to ask your questions for next week's video, which is not looking like it's going to be followed by 2.5 the next day, considering we have heard nothing about it at all since hearing that January 20th thing. But we still know it's mid to late January. He said that in the New Year's thing. Please, Yoshi P. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and I will see you guys on next week's episode. Till then, take care.